1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
The summer of 2011 saw a great drought in the American Southwest, the greatest in Texas history. The drought caused over $7 billion in agricultural damage, wildfires spread throughout the region, people lost their livelihoods and their homes. However, I'm not here to talk about droughts, wildfires, or Texas. I'm here to talk about the American overconsumption of meat. Texas happens to be the country's largest cattle producer, and cattle drink a lot of water. According to NPR, a quarter pound of hamburger requires 52.8 gallons of drinking water to produce. Now, also according to NPR, the average American consumes 270.7 pounds of meat per year. That's a 50,000 gallon water tower dedicated towards meat consumption for every person. My name is Jake Johnson. I'm more or less a non-meat eater, and today I'd like to talk to you about the current state of meat consumption. I'd also like to talk to you about the processes and externalities posed by the large growth in the industry, and some methods and benefits of cutting your personal meat intake. Now, we all know Americans eat a lot. Not even a lot of meat. Americans just like to eat a lot of stuff. Americans consume more food now than they ever have before, and they consume more food than any other country on the planet. This is caused by several factors, one being an increased supply of food. The United States Department of Agriculture claims that the food supply was 3,800 calories per person per day in the year 2000, 500 calories more than in 1970, and 800 calories more than in 1957. This increased food supply drives overall food prices down, which will allow those with a food budget to purchase more food or purchase more expensive, more decadent meals. Food has more preservatives nowadays, allowing more food from the 3,800 calorie allotment to be eaten rather than go to waste. And there's been an increase in food aid, which allows poorer people to buy larger amounts of food as well. And this increase in food consumption disproportionately favors meat. The USDA stated that American meat consumption reached 195 pounds per person per year in the year 2000, which is 57 pounds more than the 1950s, or 4 additional slices of bacon every day. The increased food supply, while driving down average food prices, has tanked the price of meat. The average cost of a pound of bacon in 1950 was 69 cents per pound, which today is $6.92 per pound adjusted for inflation. And compare that to the $3.50 per pound you'll buy a pound of bacon for at Safeway. Go meat. Compare that bacon price to a pound of spinach, and you'll find that the bacon is almost always a better bang for your buck, not to mention the fact that bacon tastes much better too. But however, it seems kind of contrary to what I stated before. A quarter pound burger requires 52.8 gallons of water, 6.7 pounds of grain, and 1,036 BTUs of fossil fuel energy, the same as my MacBook takes in an hour. So how can a cheeseburger possibly be so cheap? The current process for meat production has turned it into just that, a process. Just as the industrial revolution completely changed the way we make and consume products, factory farming has completely changed the way we raise and consume animals. Assembly line techniques applied to animals began in the 1920s with the isolation of vitamins A and D. These vitamins, when added to animal feed, allow the animals to grow without the need for exercise or sunlight. It allows animals to be compacted into tight areas in dimly lit warehouses, and in the 1940s, the advent of antibiotics allowed them to do that without the fear of disease killing the animals either. Naturally, when you change a process refined by God, evolution, or whatever else has caused cows to eat grass and walk around to grow, there are a few side effects. According to United States law, animal feed given to cows is no longer comprised of ground-up cow byproduct. Instead, it's made up mostly of corn and those sweet vitamin additives. The problem with corn is cows aren't able to digest it properly. Cows eat grass. When cattle are fed grain, productivity is increased, but fiber-deficient rations can disrupt physiological mechanisms. That's a statement made by USDA researcher James Russell. He pretty much stated grain is able to feed cattle more efficiently and allow them to grow faster. However, the lack of fiber in the grain feed means that the grain stays in the cow's stomach too long and starts to produce fermentation and fermented acids. According to the journal Science, the cow's digestive chamber, called the rumen, is what allows the cow to break down high-fiber grass. When low-fiber grain is broken down in the rumen, the cow isn't able to absorb these acids as it normally would. This can cause stomach ulcers, which in turn cause infection into the bloodstream of the animal. What's worse, science claims that grain-based diet promotes the growth of E. coli. E. coli bred in the cow's stomachs are able to withstand the large amounts of acid that I just mentioned. They're even able to survive the antibiotics in the cow's diet. This can create antibiotic-resistant strains that can spread not only into the meat of the cow, it can spread into the manure of the cow, which is used to fertilize products like spinach. A completely separate issue of overconsumption of cattle is the contribution to greenhouse gases. The science behind global climate change states that as you build up gases like CO2 in the atmosphere, more and more sunlight is reflected back to the Earth, which heats up the entire planet. The United Nations concludes that animal production accounts for 51% of all human-related greenhouse gas production. Most of these emissions aren't CO2, they're actually the lesser-known but more concentrated greenhouse gases, nitrous oxide, or methane. The UN also stated that 65% of this nitrous oxide comes from this animal rearing, and 37% of human-caused methane production also comes from cattle rearing. And the chair of the International Panel on Climate Change, Rajendra Pachauri, states that if everyone went meat-free 1 day per week, then global greenhouse emissions from humans will go down 18% flat, including cars, including factories, including everything. He even goes so far as to state that every person that goes from a meat eater to a vegetarian offsets 1.5 tons of CO2 from their personal carbon footprint yearly. This really does put the cost of eating meat in perspective. There's no question the meat industry is a mainstay of our society, and has evolved to pass a lot of the costs of its production to other areas of society. So the question is, can you eat less meat? By abstaining from meat for 1 day per week, like I said before, you are able to offset your carbon footprint a great deal. By consuming fewer factory-farmed animals, you reduce the amount of secondhand antibiotics consumed. This makes them more effective when you truly need them. You can replace hamburger with savory black bean or soy-based replacement. You can replace steaks with potato and vegetable stews. And any assortment of salads and soups tastes great with fresh vegetables, plant-based foods. As I've described, there are many personal and societal benefits to changing your diet towards meatless options. You've learned about the reasons Americans eat so much meat, the evolution of the meat process, the unseen effects of the process, and how eating less meat reduces greenhouse gases, E. coli outbreaks, and unneeded antibiotics. And if you eat 1/4 pound of beef less per day, you may be able to lessen the harsh effects of drought in Texas, and you may be able to reallocate 50,000 gallons of water from your stomach to wildfires burning somewhere.